Hey, welcome in. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Laura, if you're new to the channel. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to dig deep into these astrological energies for the Twin Flame Collective. It is a pretty potent day today because we do have two significant astrological shifts. We do have Venus sitting at the anaretic degree, 29th degree in Gemini. We are moving from mutable air into cardinal water energy later today. Venus will be entering into Cancer, and then we also have Chiron finally beginning its retrograde motion over the course of the next 5 months, and it is stationing retrograde in the sign of Aries at 27 degrees orb 9. As you can see up on the screen there, we do have Venus at that 0 degree mark, and it is sitting in the 3rd house of Gemini. And so we're kind of alchemizing Gemini and Cancerian energy. The 3rd house is connected to communication. It is also connected to siblings, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, our community, like our neighbors. And so as we leave Venus in Gemini in this 3rd house, there is an emphasized energy on communication and this deep mental exploration connected to duality. And then we are shifting into a lot of lighter energy, I feel, with the Venus in Cancer, right? It's the nurturing, it's the intuitive energy, it's the protective energy, it's deeply emotionally sensitive. And in the realm of relationships, we're moving from this emotional detachment and overthinking into this very emotionally sensitive energy. And so as Venus moves through this anaretic degree, it is about completion, right? The 29th degree mark is always about completion in astrology. And I do feel there's this karmic portal of sorts is really what this is feeling like. And I feel a lot of fated emotional decisions, especially around love, value, self-worth. The 0 degrees in Cancer energy, for me, looking at this, is really saying fresh emotional start. But when I look at the energy of Venus, it is in a square to Neptune and Saturn. These energies will be exact later this week on Friday. And so these energies are building. And Saturn retrograde is asking us to restructure the way we view love and romance and self-worth. And Neptune retrograde is asking us to become a little bit disillusioned. And so this energy is deeply connected to home. It's deeply connected to soul, family, and it is also going to be in this quincunx pattern to Pluto also retrograde. And so there's this high priestess energy building along with this Ace of Wands. And so deep down inside, you know there is a cycle reaching culmination or completion. And because Venus in Cancer is also going to be in this square aspect to Mars in Virgo, at that 25 degree mark, there is this friction or this tension connected to restructurizing our day-to-day routine, our day-to-day life, and the moon in Libra is asking us to create that balance. And so this shift really is activating, I want to say, that heart-centered healing over Venus's movement through the sign of Cancer. It will later conjunct Jupiter. And so this energy today really is encouraging that emotional vulnerability. I do feel it is calling the twin flames to prioritize this soul nurturing over any mental games, kind of like that 5 of Swords energy. And Venus is in a sextile still to Chiron. And so this is about taking action to heal the wound, especially as Chiron stations retrograde in Aries the same day. And so Chiron in Aries is the sign of self. It is connected to identity. There is this initiation to take action towards healing. And so this 5-month journey is an inward journey connected to healing and facing all of these wounds around abandonment, around self-worth, anger, fear of rejection, and all of these ego wounds. And so I know there's a lot of shadowy energy coming up, and we can no longer bypass integrating the shadow divine masculine archetype, okay? So this retrograde really is targeting these old masculine wounds, whether it's an inner masculine wound, a father wound, or a wound connected directly to the divine masculine. There is this fear of vulnerability being triggered and this pressure to act, right? To act on our feelings. And there's this feeling, I want to say a fear around initiating a reunion within these connections. And so retrogrades are always going to pull the energy inward, and Venus in that square to Saturn and Neptune is really asking us to go deep into the reflection of this shadow work, and that's going to be emphasized. And so I know I've posted quite a bit on the community tab recently about the shadow work, especially as Mars is still completing that conjunction to the South Node in Virgo. And so there's a lot of themes coming up being triggered between independence versus codependencies, and self-trust is going to be required as we kind of are all being initiated deeper into our divine purpose, right? And we do this shadow work by no longer spiritually bypassing. The journey is not all love and light. It is a lot of deep integration of the shadow work. And so if I were to click on Chiron here, I just lost my chart. Give me a minute here and we'll pull it back up, because I just feel with the themes with Chiron, this is like an internal reckoning. Venus entering into Cancer. I've got it back up here. Okay, let me pull on Chiron. Let me look at Chiron. So during this retrograde motion, Chiron is going to be in a pretty much a direct opposition to the moon in Libra. And so the moon in Libra is seeking to create that balance. And it's also in a square to Pluto, which is creating this tension connected to this rebirth. And it is in a quincunx to Mars in Virgo, which is asking us to get things in order. And so I do think there's this massive fear around taking action, especially in love, because a lot of the divine masculines are still emotionally suppressing. And so there is this withdrawal or this silence, and it almost feels a little bit like rejection. And there's this protective measure, I feel, surrounding the divine masculine as he processes and integrates all of this deeply buried emotional pain. And with Venus in Cancer, this is tugging at the divine masculine's heart chakra. And so there's this stirring of desire for home, for emotional safety, for this authentic connection. And I do think it's triggering fears of being emotionally overwhelmed, because a lot of the masculines have to process their inadequacy wounds. And so there is this need to allow this space for the divine masculine to go through this introspection. We cannot force them to take action, right? We cannot pressure them or force them to take action. The divine masculine collective does need that room to feel his feelings without shame, because shame is a big part of the processing. A lot of the masculines live with this shame and they hide this shame. And so this is a process, I feel, over the course of the next 5 months of the masculines really connecting to the emotional body, to the body in itself through movement and through breath work, and processing all of this deep emotional energy. And they are doing shadow work connected to their identity itself. And so I do feel journaling is really going to help both the masculine and the feminine, because a lot of the masculines are stuck in these karmic cycles because of all of these external expectations. And so they need to figure out, I feel, what healthy vulnerability looks like for them. But there is a need to create that balance, right? We do require intimacy. We are human beings and we require intimacy, but we also have to still harness our independence while creating that intimacy. And so I think there's a recognition for the masculines between the difference of healthy boundaries and emotional walls, because a lot of the masculines wall up and they create these emotional blockages. And this also is asking the divine feminine to return home to her heart, right? And so right now the feminine is being asked to prioritize self-care, filling your own cup first, and releasing any anxious attachment relationship style. So a lot of the masculines become emotionally avoidant And that creates that anxious attachment style from the feminine, where we chase and we want to pursue, which then pushes us into our masculine energy, and we are being called back home to self, into that feminine energy of the heart. And Chiron's retrograde for the divine feminine, I feel, is always about healing these old abandonment wounds connected to the father, and where we have overgiven within relationships at the expense of ourself. And so we have to learn to hold space for ourselves during this retrograde. And so we are all being called to release expectations, right, around the divine masculine and the timeline of union, because we do have to trust in the unfolding of divine timing. And so I feel right now, collectively, we need to kind of create that emotional sanctuary in order to tend to our home space, divine feminine, to do that deep inner child healing, and to focus on what your heart really needs, right? And so when we nurture ourselves like we wish our counterpart to nurture us, then we're not in this energy of needing to fix anything, right? And so allow any emotions to surface without trying to solve a problem, or without trying to rescue the divine masculine and divine feminine. If there is any negative emotions rising, go into that shadow work, acknowledge the shadowy emotions, because that is going to be fuel for the next part of the journey for what it is we are here to create. And so when we strengthen our spiritual practices, we ground in that open heart energy, but we also have to connect with the wound itself, which is a lot of shadow work integration. And so on the other side of this retrograde, I do feel we will be fully anchored into the energy of self-worth. So really use this time period to reflect on your innate value, right? And so we are inherently valuable without performing, without overgiving, right? And our value is not contingent on any type of external validation, right? And so there is a reunion timeline, I feel, being activated though with these transits today, and the portal is initiated in these energies today. We are entering, I feel, a very powerful phase of heart healing, and this is really where we reclaim our true soul identity. And we always have to go through the inner union first, and that is a part of the twin flame journey. And so it really is time for both of the counterparts, the masculine and the feminine, to feel deeply, to heal fearlessly is what this feels like, and to honor the emotional truths that are surfacing, right? And so reunion energy is building. But like I said, this reunion energy always has to happen from within, where we reconcile the inner masculine and feminine polarities, and we align our heart, and we become more aligned with our mission. So let's go a little bit further with the oracle and the tarot messages. If you are new to the channel, new to astrology, I would like to mention I do have a free guide to understanding the basics of the birth chart. If you would like to learn a little bit more about your birth chart, comment down below. Free guide. I would love to send you the link to download the free guide about the basics of your birth chart. I have also written a 22-page twin flame ebook. This twin flame ebook does talk about the stages and the phases of the awakening process on the twin flame path. It is specific to twin flame awakening and ascension, and it's focusing more on mission than any type of romantic relationship. If you're ready to accelerate your twin flame path, your twin flame mission, comment twin flame book down below, and I will send you the link to download the twin flame book. But let's go a little bit further with the oracle and the tarot messages, and let's see what else is in store for the collective today. Let's break down this reading because it's definitely aligned with the astrological energies that I just talked about. Let's start with the Oracle card, Dignified. It does say strength on the card, and as you can see, it is a 13 card. And so this definitely ties into the Chiron retrograde energy, where we are being asked to face the inner wounds with strength and with dignity, right? Number 13 does evoke the death archetype card within the major arcana. And so this is a symbolized card of endings, ego death, transformation. And so I do feel this strongly indicates, though, that your voice matters. And so as we connect to the final moments of Venus and Gemini at the anaretic degree, this is a sign that does govern communication. And so there is a need to speak your truth before emotionally retreating into the Venus and Cancer energy. And so this really is a call to self-empowerment, to recognize your inner resources and to stand in the light of your divine truth, and to not shrink from any confrontations, even if it is a confrontation with yourself, because the confrontation card did come out. And so this is where I feel the divine masculine collective is being pushed to find their voice, to confront the fears, and to reclaim worth beyond any ego external validation. And so there is this energy, I want to say, of like quiet, silent strength as the collective processes these karmic wounds related to identity and action. Divine feminine. The message is pretty clear. You are being called to stand in your divine truth, to honor your boundaries, and to release the need to fix. Okay? Because when we have the courage to speak and feel authentically, it does create the energetic space for union. We go from the strength, dignified card right to the Venus card, the beloved energy. This is divine feminine energy. This is the embodiment of Venus entering into Cancer. And so I do feel emotional intensity. I feel heart awakening, heart expansion. I feel the closure of the superficial cycles, because as you can see, it is a 21 card, which is the completion of the karmic journey connected to the world in the major arcana. And so there is almost like a bit of a warning energy with this card. Don't chase love in the wrong places, right? Especially when it comes to material comforts or addictive patterns or any false attachments. We are here to heal our heart and to become love itself, because we are the beacon of unconditional love, divine feminine. That is what really will magnetize that true union. And I do feel the divine masculine is being tempted from either a karmic partner or a material distraction, but these cycles ultimately are closing, especially for the divine masculines that are actually feeling unfulfilled in those karmic cycles. And so there's a nudge for the masculine, I feel, to feel his heart, to really understand what his true desires are. I also feel grief for the past choices. And with all of the roses on the card, I do feel this is connected to the sisterhood of the rose energy. And you are being asked, divine feminine, to release the cycle of overgiving, to release cycles of love addiction, and this fixation on reunion or validation from the external masculine. And so return to your creative self, nurture yourself. Venus in Cancer really wants the divine feminine to mother her own heart and to not give your heart away so blindly, okay? Discernment. Then we go right to this opposition card, and it looks like two people going head to head. There is a Knight of Swords energy. It does indicate a confrontation. There is an opposition here, and I do feel this is between Chiron and the moon in that opposition. And so there is tension this Chiron retrograde, right? There's the forcing of the confrontation of the old karmic wounds that have blocked the path for union. And the Knight of Swords energy does mirror that mental urgency of Venus and Gemini at 29 degrees and the Chiron energy of slowing things down. And so we're being tested. Can you face conflict and stand in your truth and not be reactive, but be responsive? Can you burn through the karma with truth and grace? Because there's this pressurized energy where I feel a lot of the masculines are feeling cornered and being forced to confront some very painful truths, especially around a false commitment, or them being emotionally numb or masking their emotions through addictions, and needing to face this fear of failure, right? Because any failure really is a redirection to what is actually meant for you, right? And so I do feel this very uncomfortable energy where the masculine is required to kind of change directions. And you're probably going to feel triggered to react, divine feminine, especially if you sense a karmic interference or even the lingering residue of betrayal because of the karmic interference. But instead of engaging in chaos, anchor in your heart-centered truth. Choose peace over reaction. Reply, but don't react. Let the confrontation burn all of that karmic energy away, because at the bottom of the deck we got Juno, and so a very interesting energy today with Juno, because it does represent partnerships. Because it's a 31 card, there is a connection to the 5 of Wands energy in the tarot. The 5 of Wands is key 31, and astrologically speaking, Juno does represent marriage contracts, but in this context, there is a false union here is what this feels like, or karmic interference that is being exposed. And so the 5 of Wands undertone is suggesting competition, gossip, betrayal, energetic disruption even. And this is third party energy. There could be family expectations or false soul ties at play here. But let's face it, parrots gossip. They repeat everything that you say. And I do feel this underlying sense of infidelity or betrayal, which is mirroring that emotional intensity of Venus in Cancer. As this truth comes to light, hearts are going to break wide open, and this is for healing. And so this to me is indicating purification with all of the white flowers on the card. Daisies, that's interesting. Justin Bieber just released that song, Daisies. I'm not even going to go down that road, but I do feel the masculine is breaking free from a false contract or karmic partnership that really has drained him emotionally. And I do feel the karmic is going to be revealing secrets, which is going to force the masculine to realign and get out of this false obligation. And I think you're feeling this energetic interference, divine feminine. So you're called to trust in divine timing. Do not engage in any reactivity or any jealousy. Stand in your self-worth, because what is meant for you is never going to require you to have to fight for love, okay? So let's break down the tarot spread, because I do feel there's a lot of integration happening here. I do feel there's this energy of protection. I think we need to visualize our aura being protected from this gossip or this interference, because you cannot be touched, divine feminine, if you are healed as that sovereign soul. And so let's talk about this top row, because the first card out is the moon in reversed. And so there is surface energies here that are being revealed. The moon does represent the divine feminine principle. It is the gravitational pull. And then the sun card came out, which does represent divine masculine energy. And I do feel a reorientation here. And so this is the divine feminine seeing through illusions. There is a major awakening or reawakening or expansion of awakening happening here, where any emotional fog or emotional denial or wishful thinking, it's being cleared. And you are aligning with that Venus in Cancer energy, where you're no longer going to suppress your truth or your emotions, and you're going to speak it. And so I do feel you are reclaiming your inner clarity, your inner power with the moon card. And the sun card is divine masculine energy. I do feel very strongly this is a period of illumination. I feel truths are being revealed to the divine masculine, and I think it's a painful truth, but this is his path being realigned with the sundial. I do feel the energy of like a massive potential breakthrough here, especially as Chiron stations retrograde, so he can finally see his own shadow. And I do feel his heart is being activated very painfully in these energies today. And then the burden, the releasing of the burden, right? And the false responsibilities, the releasing of the karmic weight, and the releasing of the emotional heaviness. It's like the masculine is being brought to his knees. And this is the energy of Chiron retrograde. There is this call to surrender, to no longer carry what doesn't belong to you. And it is connected to Saturn energy as well. And so as, the Venus square Saturn energy, I think, is very loud between the sun and the 10 of Wands energy. And the middle row, I just feel, is karmic exposure. Because divine feminine, there you are, central energy as that Queen of Swords. I love it. I love it. And so there is a brand new abundant beginning here. We have the Palace of Coins. And so there's potential for new grounded beginnings. It's here, but the false foundations do have to be cleared first. And so this Palace of Coins, I feel, represents the true soul union, that we build upon the authentic value of our emotional truth and not on materialism or control, right? It's like the palace energy, leadership energy. And the Queen of Swords, that's you, divine feminine truth speaker. And so because you are the central energy today in this message, this, I feel, is you standing in your truth, standing in your sovereignty and that clarity, where you are exposing deception, possibly publicly, or maybe just through an energetic confrontation, right? But I do feel this is where you use your words as powerful catalysts to expose the truth. You are the mirror of truth. And as you burn through the illusion, the truth also gets activated for the divine masculine. And the illusion you are exposing is the shadow greed and ungroundedness of the divine masculine, where he does need to confront that shadow energy regarding materialism, control, and this false sense of security with the false feminine, right? Where they're both in this 3D matrix of materialism. And so I do feel the energy of a masculine here being stuck in a karmic contract. And it is tied to status quo. It's tied to money. It's tied to ego. But I do feel it crumbling because the card is in reverse. And this definitely ties into the Juno partnership energy of the karmic tie that really was rooted in, I want to say, material dependency. And the bottom row is actually very telling here, because this is the karmic breakdown. This is the collapse, especially with the Nine of Wands reverse coming out, the wounded warrior in reverse, Chiron retrograde, screaming Chiron retrograde. And so this does speak directly to the retrograde. There's a collapse of the defensive walls, of deep vulnerability, and the need to stop fighting for what actually hurts us, right? So oftentimes we will keep going back to what hurts us until we reach that surrender point, because we are so extremely exhausted at the soul level. And so there is a false foundation being exposed with the 10 of Cups in reverse. And so that ideal union, the family, or the happiness that was built on illusion is collapsing. And so this is definitely related to a false karmic relationship, or the illusion of reunion without actually doing the inner work, right? We have to do the inner work. And this definitely aligns with the bottom of the deck, 6 of Cups in reversed, right? Where there's past life karma here, I feel, being cleared. And then the last card out today is the Queen of Coins in reversed. And this is feeling like a very karmic feminine energy, to be honest. This does represent the false feminine. It represents past life karma. I do feel there is a karmic partnership here. The burden is being released. I do feel there's a very ungrounded, controlling, manipulative feminine energy here that is tied to materialism. She's addicted to the comfort zone, and there is emotional manipulation here. And I do feel this third-party exposure is happening because there's betrayal, there's gossip, and I want to say jealousy. I do. I want to say jealousy. And so all of these hidden energies on the bottom of the deck are pretty telling, right? Because there are past life wounds here connected to childhood that need to be released. There's past life karma, there's nostalgia, there's attachments, there's patterns here that need to be cleared. There's truth seeking, truth speaking with the Page of Swords. There's exposure. I want to say surveillance. Somebody is watching you, Divine Feminine. Somebody is watching you deliver these truth bombs, whether it's the karmic or the masculine. There is this energy of surveillance. I think you're being watched by multiple people, but there is a new lesson here. There's an emergence from the collapse. There is a humbling new beginning here, right? And a relearning of values, a starting with a clean slate. So there is a pure, grounded new start here. It's possible, but after the slate is wiped clean, right? And so I kind of feel, Divine Feminine, you are fully awakened from the illusions of this soul contract. I also feel you're standing in your power and your truth, and you're no longer going to carry the karmic burden that isn't yours to carry. And so as you expose deception, you are also cutting ties, because this is the feminine stepping into public truth telling. Your role is to clear these false love dynamics and to reclaim your self-worth and to anchor in that emotional sovereignty and to do it publicly. And as you illuminate the truth, the divine masculine has to confront the shadow around materialism, his ego, and this false sense of security in this karmic partnership where I think he's just feeling exhausted. And so this is the chance for the masculine to break free, but he has to choose the soul union over the status that he's built. And so there's a lot of vulnerability because his ego wants to kind of hold on, even though there's like this collapse. So let's break it down with the inner child card. And I picked the inner child deck because of the Chiron retrograde. And I love that the first card out was a 29 card, right? So this does speak to that ending, the karmic closure. It reduces to 11, which is a twin flame number, a spiritual mastery. And so how does it feel to be in the mess of what it is that you created? How does your adult self feel in this mess? And what does your inner child need? And so this does speak directly to the karmic collapse, I feel, the emotional heaviness we've seen in the tarot with the 10 of Wands and the 10 of Cups in reverse, the moon reversed, right? No more illusions. And so there is an invitation to pause and reflect without the shame, right? We have to allow the chaos to create the change to break free from the chains, because we don't want to stay trapped in the shame, right? The inner child does crave freedom. And this journey is not punishment. It is here to mirror all of the revisiting of the original wounds. We got to get to the origin of the wound, not to blame anybody, but to release all of these trapped emotions in our emotional body so we can return to that childlike innocence. And so there's a letting go of control, letting go of perfectionism. We don't always have to have it all together. It's okay sometimes to not be okay. It's okay to give that space for your inner child to come out and play, to feel, and to express what's been repressed, especially emotions of anger, fear, or sadness connected to unfulfilled love or a false sense of security. Because let's face it, soul contracts are messy, right? And we have multiple soul contracts for growth, but growth will only come if you face the mess that you've created with love. And facing the mess is a requirement of taking that accountability. And so bottom of the deck, disappointment is not the end. It's a 10 card, so another indication of completion, right? 10, completion. And so there is a necessary ending of karmic partners, karmic patterns, emotional stagnation, false sense of security. There's grief and letting go, right? We do still have to grieve toxic relationships, especially the ones that were very comforting, but at the same time limiting. And so there's grieving the karmic partner. There's grieving maybe a pattern of waiting or the false dream of what reunion is supposed to look like, or because it hasn't come to pass yet. And so there's disappointment. Disappointment and working through it clears the way for a realignment. There's a new beginning on the other side of an ending or collapse. And so honor your grief. Honor it. Anger is a part of grieving. We have to go through all the stages of grieving, oftentimes multiple times. It's okay to feel let down. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to be uncertain. Honor the grief, but don't let it define you. Because hope is not lost, right? But we do have to release the past. And so Chiron retrograde, I feel, is a major emotional detox, because Chiron is going to be entering into Taurus next year. We're at late degree Chiron. And so we're cleaning out the heart space for that real love, not fantasy, not fear. And so as we reach this, I feel infection point, karmic infection point. The message is clear. Release the burdens. Face the truth. Nurture your inner child. Because the foundation for real union, I feel, starts with emotional honesty, right? And self-love. So divine feminine, stand tall in your truth. Break free from the messy cycles of illusion, please. Okay. The divine masculine, I do feel, is awakening. I really do feel that. And he's being called home to the heart. But first, he's going to have to confront his shadows, right? He's going to have to confront the shadows of materialism and that false sense of security. So we're kind of at this karmic reset point within the collective. And we're going through this emotional rebirth. And there is a chance to wipe the slate clean and begin anew. But we do have to become aligned with this new soulful chapter, right? And so right now it is a time to look back on your childhood and to remember and to remember the patterns and to break the patterns and to gain that new perspective. So that's what I have for a message today. If you are ready to dig deeper into learning more about your soul contract or the twin flame journey and would like to book in with a personal reading, do feel free to check out the description box below. I also do still have my transit chart readings on sale, regular $133, on sale for $99. All you have to do is book it in and have it paid for by the end of Mercury retrograde. This sale is ongoing until August the 11th. I'll leave it on till August the 11th. So now's the perfect time if you want to see how these energies are affecting you. I do offer integration tips and journaling prompts when we go through the transit chart reading. It's just a beautiful way to kind of look at how the cosmos is interacting with your personal birth chart and how to work with these energies, because they are affecting us all a little bit differently on an individual basis. But that's what I got. Feel free to check out my webpage. I do hope you have a great day, and I do look forward to seeing you all again next time.